No matter how hard you try to connect with your partner, it seems like you can never get closer. You may actually be pushing them away, doing all the things you think are trying to make you closer. In this video, I'm going to share some subtle behaviors that could be sabotaging your relationship and really pushing your partner away. The first behavior that could be pushing your partner away is you expressing anger when you're actually hurt. Of course, it's inevitable that your partner will disappoint you at some point in your relationship. Now, when you're hurt, upset, or sad over something your partner did, you attempt to express yourself and express your hurt in a way that's going to make you feel understood, validated, and supported. However, some of us are not very good at expressing our hurt to our partners. Instead of expressing our hurt, sadness, disappointment, which are all vulnerable feelings, we always go into this protective mode of anger. Because expressing anger feels safer and less vulnerable than all these vulnerable emotions. But you need to know that when you express anger to your partner, it actually pushes your partner away. So you may be thinking, here I am really pouring my heart out, trying to explain where I'm coming from over this issue that we've had an argument. And you're like, how come I'm not feeling understood? How come my partner gets defensive or leaves the argument? So when you express anger, what it does, it actually pushes your partner away rather than bringing them closer. Now you may be thinking, but Parisa, I do my best to convey what I feel in that moment. And actually, when I go to my partner to make amends or to express something that's upset me, I think I'm doing a really good job of that, but somehow it doesn't land right, or my partner gets defensive or leaves the argument. And I would tell you, in situations like that, have you actually looked carefully at how you are communicating in those moments? Because you may not be noticing how you're actually delivering your words. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're waiting for your husband to come home and he's late again, or he hasn't responded to your text. Deep down, you're really hurt. This is how you greet him when he comes home. You turn away, you roll your eyes, maybe you're just giving him a cold shoulder, making him feel ignored, and you say something like, okay, you're late again. I'm tired of waiting for you all the time. I prepared all this dinner for you, and here we go again, you're late again. You don't appreciate me. So here you're thinking, I'm really expressing myself. I'm letting him know that I'm hurt. But I want you to put yourself in your partner's shoes. They're coming home, they see you being angry, maybe your face looks angry, you are turning away from them, your tone is more high-pitched and more of a complaining tone, because there's a difference in a complaining tone and just a normal, gentle tone. If you're saying, my love, I was waiting for you for dinner, you didn't answer me, you didn't answer my text, and I've been waiting all this time, where were you? You know, that's a very gentle way of approaching it versus, you know what, I've been waiting for you all this time and I'm so hurt that you do this every time. Do you notice my pitch, how it's elevated? And probably I roll my eyes or do something that shows that I'm frustrated. This is the exact behavior that's going to push your partner away. So you're attempting at connection, but the way you're going about it, it's with an angry undertone, whether in your pitch, in your facial expression, or your language is blaming and critical. In that case, this is going to push your partner away, and it's not going to make them feel closer to you. And it's also going to make you feel very alone in the relationship because you're going to be misunderstood or invalidated. Have you ever lashed out at anyone when really you were just hurt underneath? If you've been there, tap the like button now so other people know they're not alone. The other behavior that's pushing your partner away is you being unable to express vulnerability and actually walling up when it's time to be vulnerable in your relationship. Let's say your partner does something to upset you, and instead of being direct and sharing how hurt you feel, you wall up, shut down, and get quiet. Maybe this is one way you've learned to protect yourself throughout the years to avoid any confrontation or tension in a relationship. Or this is what you've learned to protect yourself from being too exposed or vulnerable because in the past you faced rejection whenever you expressed your needs and feelings. In any case, you don't feel secure when you're vulnerable and exposed. While in your mind, you're doing the best you can to protect yourself and the relationship, that's not how this is landing for your partner. Because eventually these small hurts will pile on within you and will show up as emotional distance, passive aggressiveness, or resentment in your relationship. And your partner will feel this. They're gonna notice that maybe you're not opening up to them, so they don't feel as close to you as before. Maybe they hear certain comments here and there that tells them you're holding on to some resentment. But remember, you did this out of a good intention. You didn't bring up the hurt because you wanted to protect the relationship. You didn't want there to be a fight or tension. But this is going to have the opposite effect on your relationship. It's going to make both of you feel more distant. And also confusion for your partner, because they may be wondering, something feels off. We don't feel as close. I feel like something's shifted in my partner, but they're not telling me what's going on. And I feel kind of iced out, shut out, and confused and kind of off balance in my relationship. So what's happening? You're really undermining the safety of your relationship. Instead of being open with how you feel, risk the vulnerability and seeing if your partner can meet you there. You don't even give them that opportunity. The other thing is your relationship anxiety is absolutely pushing your partner away. It is normal, especially in the beginning of a relationship, to have certain fears and anxieties, especially if you've had bad relational experiences either with your parents or in other romantic relationships. But if you let that fear take over your relationship and you start acting out from that place of fear, you will be sabotaging your relationship. Let's say you have this fear around intimacy and feeling close to someone because it makes you feel very vulnerable and exposed. Maybe you have a fear that if this person really sees who I am, they wouldn't want to be with me. So you carry some shame about who you are. Maybe your fear is around being closer to someone because the times that you felt close to someone, you were abandoned. So you fear that abandonment. And as soon as you start to feel close to a partner, you push back with some self-sabotage behaviors. For example, let's say you have a really good time on a vacation with a partner. When you come home, you're like, oh wow, I really feel overwhelmed and flooded and I'm afraid we're getting too close. This feels very risky and vulnerable for me. So I'm gonna do something to create distance. How will I do that? Maybe I will start picking a fight with my partner. Maybe I'm just unconsciously waiting for them to do something wrong for me to pick on them. Maybe I'm gonna get overcritical with them and try to find faults. Maybe they'll reach out to me with a level of warmth and closeness because they've just shared this time with me, but I'm gonna act very aloof and detached because I don't wanna give them my emotional energy. Again, I'm trying to just protect myself. But how long do you think a partner will tolerate this kind of behavior? If this happens throughout your relationship, it's going to create a lot of chaos and confusion for your partner, and it will undermine the safety of the relationship. And there will come eventually a day where they think that they're done with this relationship and with this push and pull dynamic. So if you feel like when you're with your partner, you're not being anxious, but when they're not with you, you start getting this anxiety, that shows that the anxiety is not a sign that there's something wrong with your partner, but it's more of an internal issue that you will eventually need to work on, maybe in therapy. Because if you don't, you have to brace for the ending of this relationship eventually. Have you ever found yourself pulling away right after getting close to someone? Hit the like button now if this feels familiar. And I promise you, you are not alone in this. And this is definitely something that you can work on if you feel like it's sabotaging your relationships. I've been talking about emotional safety all throughout this video, and I think this is one of the most important things to pay attention to when you're in a relationship. For you to set the intention to create a safe space for your partner, and also paying attention if your partner is doing a good job of creating a safe relationship environment for you. If you're currently in a relationship or you've had past relationships where you didn't feel safe, I have a great relationship assessment test that tells you how your relationship is with regards to emotional safety and whether there are areas of emotional safety that you need to improve in your relationship. If you're interested in taking that test, I've attached a test right under this video. You can click and download the test now. Okay, so let's see how else are we great at pushing our partners away. The next behavior that can really push our partner away is passive aggressiveness. Let's be honest, we do not come from perfect families. We do not come from families that necessarily made us feel safe with expressing ourselves. There are families who made us feel punished, unheard, or dismissed whenever we brought something up. So it makes sense that we don't feel comfortable when we are in a relationship to be upfront about our feelings and what hurts. Now, if you were born in a family or raised in an environment where it wasn't safe for you to express yourself, you probably are always hesitant and cautious to bring things up with your partner. But not being direct about your feelings and your hurt is not a good strategy, because these feelings of hurt and disappointment are still a part of you, and it's something that you carry in your relationship. And they are going to come out as passive aggressiveness because you have this pent-up energy inside and anger that needs to come out. That's the purpose of anger and hurt. Like, they're there for you to express them, to release them. And if you're not doing that, you're keeping it bottled up, it's going to come out in indirect, harmful ways. So let's say you're upset at your partner over something they did, and because you don't feel like being loving and caring towards them, you have your guard up, you're going to stop the caring things that you would normally do for them, and you're going to start being less affectionate towards them. So for example, if every time you'd go to your favorite coffee shop, you'd grab a coffee for them, this time you stop doing that and they notice a shift. Or normally if they were going to this family event, you would accompany them because you just wanted to support them and be there with them. This time you withdraw and stop being supportive and doing those kind gestures. Sometimes even they may ask you to do something, or they have a need, or they're upset. You're not going to be as understanding and supportive towards them, and they're just going to be a guard up. So for your partner, they feel like, okay, this feels a little bit odd for me. My partner is not as affectionate, and it's going to be a very confusing experience for them. If they had the chance to know what's really bothering you, maybe they would make it right with you. But you're not giving them that opportunity. You're actually denying them to fix things by being passive aggressive. And if there's one way you can really make sure you're sabotaging your relationship, is passive aggressiveness. There's another reason you may be passive aggressive. It may be because you're afraid of being confronted, and maybe you feel like you have like a thin skin, or your image will be tarnished if you express anger. So it's not okay to express anger or hurt. So I'm not going to share it, but I'm going to make them understand in very indirect ways. Hopefully passive aggressiveness is not a way for you to punish your partner indirectly without letting them know what they're actually dealing with. If you've ever experienced this type of confusing tension in your relationship, drop a heart in the comments. It lets me know that this is resonating with you. All right, the other behavior that's definitely sabotaging your relationship is you oversharing your feelings and emotionally dumping on your partner. If you're someone who's very anxious, dysregulated, you're dealing with work stress and overwhelm, and this is what you always bring to your relationship and to your partner, it can be too much. Because in this time and age, everyone is stressed and overwhelmed. So you need to have proper, healthy boundaries in your relationship and decide what's right to share and appropriate, and what can feel like a burden to my partner. This also goes with your insecurities, your traumas, your past relationships, your family issues. Are you gonna just dump all of these emotional baggage on your partner? Or are you going to process these the proper way with a therapist? I would invite you to do the second. This is what I see time and time again in my therapy practice. Couples are tired of listening to each other. They just want to come home, have a good time, and feel relief from the hassle of every day. They don't want to come home feeling responsible for their spouse's feelings. They already have a lot on their plate. They don't want to be your therapist. They don't want to be the coach who's helping you with your self-esteem issues or work stress. That's for someone else to take care of. So if you keep emotionally dumping on your partner, they will eventually get worn out and tired. They probably wouldn't want to listen to you because it can become too much. So I would encourage you to decide on your relationship boundaries and the things that are okay with you to share with your partner that's not going to make them feel overwhelmed and flooded, versus things that you think are your responsibility to work through as an adult right now. And I think in this day and age, everyone should have a therapist, even therapists themselves. Yes, of course, your partner is supposed to be supportive in times of need. There are some inevitable times of needs like going through a sickness, loss of a family member. They have to show up for you. But the rest, I'm not too sure about that. And I'm not even sure if that will be helpful to your relationship. So just correcting these behaviors isn't going to help you navigate conflict more productively. In fact, unresolved fights create more distance when you're not intentional. So I want to walk you through how to express yourself and manage conflict in a way that builds connection instead of causing damage. I have an entire series on how you can start managing conflict better to build your relationship up instead of tearing it down. Watch it on your screen now.